So welcome to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Social Development. My name is Caitlin Cleveland. I am the MLA for Cam Lake, and I'm also chair of this committee. I'd like to start off by giving members the opportunity to introduce themselves, and I will start with the member to my left, my deputy chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Katrina Knockleby. I'm the MLA for Great Slave.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Richard DeJericho. I'm MLA for Trinity Willity.
My name is Jane Wayellen Armstrong, MLA for Morphe Riding. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'll turn the floor over to members joining us virtually, starting with MLA Bonnet Rouge.
Ron Bonnet Rouge, MLA Decho. Good evening, everyone.
Lisa Semler, MLA Newbern Twin Lakes.
Thank you so much. Members, this evening, the Standing Committee on Social Development is reviewing Bill 65, Builders Lien Act. The bill is available on the Legislative Assembly website. Bill 65 repeals and replaces the Mechanics Lien Act, which has not been changed since 1988. Committee would like to see this legislation updated. The central component of the legislation is to ensure that contractors and subcontractors are paid for the work and materials that they have provided. Bill 65 received second reading in the Legislative Assembly on November 3rd, 2022, and was referred to the committee for review. Committee conducted a review on Bill 65 and held a public hearing on January 18th, 2023. I would now like to invite the Honorable R.J. Simpson, Minister of Justice, to deliver any opening remarks on Bill 65. Following the Minister's remarks, committee will proceed with a clause-by-clause review. Minister Simpson, I'd like to pass the floor over to yourself to please start by introducing yourself and your staff, and then please proceed into your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I'm joined by Ian Rennie, Legislative Counsel with the Department of Justice, Matthew Yap, Director of Legal Registries with the Department of Justice, and my Ministerial Special Advisor, Ronna Sherigan. The purpose of Bill 65, as was stated, is to repeal the current Mechanics Lien Act and replace it with a more modern Builders Lien Act to address modern construction practices. Lien legislation is in place to ensure that parties who contribute work, labor, or materials to a construction project in the NWT are paid, and to provide a remedy if they are not. Lien legislation also creates stability and predictability for owners of construction projects by setting out their obligations to other parties involved in a construction project. The new act will use plain language where possible and take into consideration evolving best practices in construction, business, and technology. Some of the existing provisions will be maintained and adjusted. The bill proposes substantive changes to 15 areas based on research conducted by the department and engagement with external stakeholders. The new act will bring the NWT's lien legislation into the 21st century, support modern construction practices, provide more stability and predictability in the industry, and serve as a concrete example of the Assembly's support for our territory's business sector. This concludes my opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Members, at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to everyone to see if there are any questions or comments. And I'll start with Emily Knockleby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I just wanted to make some comments about the engagement that we did regarding this bill. Concerns were raised at the public hearing that we held in January regarding the application of the bill and the exclusion of the application of the bill to the GNWT. Bill 65 as drafted does not bind the GNWT, but it does bind municipalities. Committee does not want the GNWT to be exempt from the applications of liens while other governments are subject to this clause. Committee was concerned that other levels of government in the Northwest Territories, such as municipalities and Indigenous governments, were not as protected from seizure and sale of land as the GNWT is. Committee wants to see all levels of government in the Northwest Territories treated the same. Committee recognized that if the bill was amended to bind the GNWT, municipalities and Indigenous governments would be subject to liens, but not seizure and sale of land, and that very little infrastructure in the Northwest Territories would be left for which seizure and sale could apply. Recognizing this, committee felt that the bill was drafted, which provides exemption for seizure and sale on the basis of who owns a project, was problematic. After a lot of consideration on this point, committee feels that exemption for seizure and sale of land should rather apply to the type of project, not to the owner of the project. This would ensure a better balance between protecting critical public infrastructure such as healthcare centers, roads, etc., against the need to protect contractors, workers, and suppliers, which is the intent of the bill. Because of this is such a substantial bill and how the bill is applied, committee feels the bill needs to be redrafted. Can the minister please respond or answer whether or not he feels that the GNWT should still be exempt from the bill? Thank you.
Thank you, Emily Knockleby. Minister?
Thank you. And if we could go back and start again, I think I would take an approach similar to what the MLA has laid out. But the GNWT is exempted in this bill, which it is currently exempted under the current Mechanics Lien Act. So there is no change in which governments are exempted, which ones are not. The reason that the GNWT is exempted is because it is not, it's not going to go bankrupt. You know, the GNWT has the money to pay bills. So that really is the big difference. Municipalities, you know, obviously there could be financial situations. There's been a couple recently that we've seen, and that's the same for other levels of government as well. So to ensure that there is, the reason the GNWT is exempted is to ensure that things such as hospitals are not seized, and that and because it still has the money to pay the contractors. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Emily Knockleby, do you have a follow-up?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do recognize why, and that this isn't a substantial change, but ultimately, I think that committee does feel that the unequal application of the bill to the different levels of government, whether they be territorial, municipal, or Indigenous, is really an outstanding point of contention for us. Another issue that I find that to be completely lacking here, and while I do want to see this legislation go forward, and I know a lot of the business community has expressed that to us, there is a huge issue in that prompt payment is not included as part of this bill. To me, that's actually the biggest problem that we face right now in getting contractors paid, and the GNWT itself is one of the worst offenders for that. And so given that and all of the other considerations, I find it really disappointing that this bill isn't ready. I don't feel that the work is not without value and to be carried on into future work, but for me, it's too fundamentally flawed, and it's going to put stakeholders in a worse position. And so I'm hoping to get a commitment from the department to revise this bill and reintroduce it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Emily Knockleby. Minister?
Thank you. So this is the bill before us. I can't commit to reintroducing the bill. The only time that I would have an opportunity to do so would be in the August sitting. After that, I will no longer, be in this role. So I can't commit the department to do something in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Members, are there any additional questions at this time or comments for the Minister? Hearing none, does the committee agree to proceed to a clause-by-clause review of Bill 65, Builders Lien Act?
No.
Does committee agree that Bill 65, Builders Lien Act, is not ready for consideration in committee of the whole?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you, committee. Emily Whalen Armstrong?
Madam Chair, I move that Bill 65, Builders Lien Act, be reported to the Assembly as not ready for consideration in committee of the whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily Whalen Armstrong. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Bill 65, Builders Lien Act, will be reported to the Assembly as not ready for consideration in committee of the whole. Does committee agree that this concludes our consideration of Bill 65, Builders Lien Act? Thank you, committee. This concludes our consideration. I'd like to thank the minister and staff and officials for joining us here this evening. Members, this concludes the public portion of our meeting for Bill 65, Builders Lien Act. And I'd like to recommend that we just take 2 minutes to flip over to our next clause by clause, which is Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023. So we'll take 2 minutes, flip over and come back. Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now continue on with a review of Bill 94, which is the Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023. And for the sake of the record, I will go back through our introductions here this evening. My name is Caitlin Cleveland. I am the chair of the Standing Committee on Social Development and also the MLA for Cam Lake. And I'm joined here this evening in our meeting of the Standing Committee on Social Development with many of my colleagues, and I'll start with the colleague to my left.
Good evening. My name is Katrina Knockleby. I'm the MLA for Great Slave.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Richard and Jericho, I'm MLA for Trinity.
Jane Whalen Armstrong, MLA for Murphy Riding.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to our members who are joining us virtually, starting with MLA Bonnet Rouge.
Ron Bonnetrus, MLA Decho.
Lisa Semler, MLA Inuvik Twin Lakes.
Thank you very much, colleagues. This evening, the Standing Committee on Social Development is reviewing Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023. This bill is available on the Legislative Assembly website. Bill 94 received second reading in the Legislative Assembly on June 2nd, 2023, and was referred to committee for review. Bill 94 makes minor and insignificant amendments to 13 different pieces of legislation. I will now invite the Honorable R.J. Simpson, Minister of Justice, to deliver any opening remarks on Bill 94. Following the minister's opening remarks, committee will proceed with a clause-by-clause review. Minister Simpson, please take this opportunity to introduce your staff that has joined you here this evening, and I'll invite you to please present your opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm joined by Ian Rennie, Legislative Counsel with the Department of Justice, and Rhonda Sherrigan, my Ministerial Special Advisor. The purpose of Bill 94 is to amend various statutes of the Northwest Territories for which minor changes are proposed or errors or inconsistencies have been identified. Each amendment in the bill had to meet the following criteria. A, it must not be controversial. B, it must not involve the spending of public funds. C, it must not prejudicially affect rights. And D, it must not create a new offense or subject a new class of persons to an existing offense. Departments responsible for various statutes being amended have reviewed and approved the changes. The amendments proposed in Bill 94 are minor, uncontroversial, or non-substantive, and may consist of technical corrections. The amendments are of such a nature that the preparation and legislative consideration of individual bills to correct each statute would be time-consuming for the government and the Assembly. This concludes my opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Members, are there any questions or concerns that anyone would like to share with the member or the minister this evening? Hearing none, does the committee agree to proceed to a clause-by-clause review of Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023? Where possible, I will call clauses in groups. Does the committee agree? Committee, we will defer the bill number and title until after consideration of the clauses. Please turn to page 1 of the bill. Clauses 1 to 5. Does committee agree? Clauses 6 through 10. Does committee agree? Clauses 11 to 13. Does committee agree? We will now return to the bill number and title. Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023. MLA Whalen Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023 is now ready for consideration in Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, MLA Whalen Armstrong. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023 will be reported to the Assembly as ready for consideration in Committee of the Whole. Does committee agree that this concludes our consideration of Bill 94, Miscellaneous Statute Law Amendment Act 2023? Thank you, committee. This concludes our consideration. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the minister and his officials for joining us here this evening on both bills that we had the opportunity to speak to, and would also like to join members of the public. And I'd like to apologize for us not being able to stream this live this evening. We are having some technical difficulties, but we'll work hard to make sure that this is publicly available at a later date. So thank you very much, Minister, for your time this evening.
Thank you.